It's all right. Those were the words I said to myself as Ethan's hands continued working gently across my shoulders, growing more confident with each motion. His touch became more deliberate, smoothing the oil in slow, rhythmic patterns that warmed my skin. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to feel it, to truly feel something for the first time in what seemed like forever. It had been years since someone touched me with intention, and that realization struck harder than I wanted to admit. But then, his hands began to drift lower, sliding down the natural curve of my back with care. My breath caught. I opened my mouth to speak, to stop it, but nothing came. Only silence surrounded us, thick and paralyzing. I told myself it was innocent, that he was only helping, that maybe it was me who was imagining things. But I knew that wasn't the truth. His hands paused at the edge of my towel. I could feel his hesitation, just hovering, not quite moving forward. My emotions swirled inside me, guilt, confusion, longing, and instead of stopping him, I found myself whispering, "It's okay. You can keep going." The words tasted strange as they left my lips, hanging in the air with a weight I immediately recognized as irreversible. Ethan remained frozen for a moment, surrounded by silence. I shut my eyes again, and I could feel it, his hands settling where they never should have been. My heart pounded wildly, and I knew he could sense it, feel it through the tension in my body. A part of me screamed to sit up, to push him away, to make it stop. But I didn't. Why? I still don't know. Was it the ache of isolation? A desperate hunger to be acknowledged, seen, even in the most twisted form? Or had I simply stopped caring? Whatever it was, that day on the beach marked a change. Something inside me fractured, and nothing would ever return to how it was before. If you've come this far into my story, thank you for staying with me. I know how hard this is to hear. If this story resonates with you, or someone you know, please take a moment to like, comment, or subscribe. Your support means more than you know. It reminds me I'm not alone in telling these stories. Now, back to what happened next. After that beach day, everything shifted. The feelings that followed, the way Ethan looked at me, it wasn't just in my mind. There was something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. A quiet knowing, a hunger that wouldn't fade. When we returned home that evening, I tried to pretend nothing had happened. I threw myself into the rhythm of daily life, making dinner, folding laundry, asking Ethan about school. I told myself it would pass, that it was a moment we'd both forget. But it didn't fade. He lingered around me more often, his presence heavy in the air. Every glance, every moment we shared in silence seemed charged with tension. I hated myself for letting it grow, and I hated him for awakening something I couldn't control. Blaze returned home later that night, as usual, tie crooked, exhaustion written on his face. He kissed my cheek out of habit, not affection. Just a routine gesture between two people who once loved each other. I tried to start a conversation, hoping for something real, but he just nodded and walked to the living room. It was the same old story. His presence was there, but his spirit was somewhere far from us. I felt invisible again, like a ghost in my own home. That night, I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My thoughts screamed louder than ever. Ethan. His touch. His gaze. The way I felt seen by someone, anyone. I knew it was wrong. I knew I had to stop whatever was happening before it spiraled even further. But a hidden part of me, a cold, lonely piece, didn't want to let it go. It clung to the attention, the feeling, the sensation of being desired. The days that followed were quiet, but Ethan's silence spoke volumes. He didn't retreat, not entirely. He stayed close, hovering in that space between too near and not near enough. He watched me constantly from the kitchen, the couch, the corner of the room, and I let him. I didn't push him away. I didn't stop it. When the weekend came, the heat settled thick over the house, heavy and oppressive. Blaze had left again, off to handle some final urgent matter at work. Once again, Ethan and I were left alone. I asked him if he wanted to go back to the beach. Just the two of us. Even as the words left my mouth, I couldn't explain why I said them. Maybe I thought being outside would clear my mind. Maybe I was testing something in myself to see if I could hold the line or if I'd let it unravel even more. We drove in silence. This time, Ethan didn't put on his headphones. He just stared out the window, eyes lost in thought. His knee bounced restlessly, tapping out some nervous rhythm. I wanted to speak, to say anything, to break the silence wrapping itself around us. But every time I tried, the words got stuck. They never made it out. And then we arrived. The beach was nearly deserted, a vast stretch of sand waiting in stillness. A quiet paradise. 2 years have passed, yet the memory of that day still clings to me, like an unfinished song echoing in the quietest corners of my mind. What started as a simple beach outing with my son, Ethan, under a bright, golden sky, slowly twisted into something I could never have predicted. A single moment, so subtle, so fleeting, shifted everything. Now, whenever I close my eyes, I feel it, a presence that shouldn't exist, a boundary crossed that should never have been touched. Was it a momentary lapse, or something more troubling? Something that cannot be undone? Some moments, they say, stitch themselves into the fabric of your memory forever. They whisper silently, but stay ever present. It's been 2 years since that moment. 2 years since the course of everything changed. That beach trip with Ethan had started with the promise of nothing more than fun and sunshine. My husband, Blaze, was absent yet again. His job always came first. I had gotten used to that silence, the empty chair beside me. That day, however, felt different. The sun bore down with a strange intensity as Ethan and I found a quiet spot to rest. I stretched out and finally felt free from the noise of the world. I called Ethan over to help rub sunscreen onto my back. I didn't hesitate. He's my son, my little boy. So, why did I act without thought? It seemed harmless, his hands simply moving over my back, helping me. But eventually I felt it. His touch shifted. He drifted lower. And I stayed silent.
Why?
Why didn't I stop him? You think you understand? That you truly know your family? All it takes is one moment, one slip, and everything begins to unravel. It happened on that beach. That's where everything changed for me. That day left a permanent mark on the rest of my life. Blaze and I had been married for over 15 years. From the outside, people thought we had it all, a lovely home, 2 beautiful children, and a life that looked stable. But cracks had long formed beneath the surface. You don't always see the void until you're sitting in the middle of it. For years, Blaze buried himself in work. He was dedicated, no one could deny that. I never tried to stop him. Weekends, holidays, even birthdays. I kept telling myself he was doing it for us, for our future. But over time, that story started to fall apart. What's the point of a home if it's empty? If it never feels alive? When he came home, I felt invisible. He rarely looked at me, rarely asked how I was or what I needed. Our conversations had dwindled to bills, groceries, and the kids. He adored Ethan and our younger daughter, Lily, but even when he was physically there, it was like his spirit had gone somewhere else. I'd sit across from him at breakfast, wondering if he even realized I was there. One morning, I stood in the kitchen watching him rush out. He grabbed his briefcase, kissed Lily on the head, and gave me a half-second glance, an unspoken apology hanging in the air. Sorry, Freya. I can't make it today. Something urgent at work. I didn't argue. I just nodded, like always, swallowing the lump in my throat and telling myself it was okay. Then there was Ethan, 16.
Tall, slim,
Quietly independent. He had his father's eyes, but they were softer, more thoughtful. When I told him it would just be the 2 of us going to the beach, he didn't say much. He didn't seem surprised. He was used to his father missing out. He helped carry the bags to the car. On the drive, I glanced over and saw him staring out the window, earbuds in, lost in whatever world was playing in his mind. I smiled.
He was growing so fast.
Sometimes I wondered if I'd blink and he'd be gone. The road to the beach seemed to stretch on forever. My thoughts wandered to Blaze, Those old memories of dates, long nights of movies, laughter echoing in quiet rooms. I wondered, are you still with me, reading this? If so, press 1, just so I know. I thought of the way Blaze used to touch me, how his eyes once lit up when they looked at me. That warmth had long since faded. For years, it had been missing, out of reach. I had become hollow, drained by the weight of being unnoticed. We finally arrived. Ethan helped carry our things to a quiet spot by the glittering water. As I unfolded the towels, he set up the umbrella, making a cozy little haven. I'm not sure why I started talking to him more. Maybe it was because he was the only one there. Or maybe I just needed someone to hear me. Being outside always lifts the spirit, doesn't it? I asked. He nodded with a smile, brushing his hair back casually. Yes, Mother. It really is. I lay back, letting the sun embrace me, soaking in the rare peace. For a moment, I let myself breathe, let go of the heaviness that had built over the years. Then I remembered the sunscreen. I turned my head and asked Ethan, "Would you help me with this?" My back needed attention, and I couldn't do it alone. He hesitated as he took the bottle from my hand, glancing at me quickly. I adjusted myself, eyes fixed on the towel, preparing. His first touch was tentative, gentle, careful, like he didn't want to hurt me. I smiled. It reminded me of when he was little, holding my hand tightly as we crossed the street. Back then, his hands were tiny, and I had to hold firmly to keep him close. I whispered something to him then, softly, so only he could hear.